What's a terrible movie that critics hated, but you loved? Pop Star. Never Stop Never Stopping. Total box office flop. But such a gem. Andy Samberg stars, with the rest of the Lonely Island, as a pop star who, as the title suggests, never stops not stopping. Some crazy celeb cameos. Super funny. 100% recommend. Apparently Megamind. Which IIRC flopped at its time but I love to this day. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, new one. I'm a photographer and I loved how they filmed that movie. If you pause the movie during many of the scenes it looks like a photograph. And the soundtrack. I can't even describe the emotions it makes me feel. I guarantee you have heard a song from it at one point. I still listen to the album every now and then. Critics said the main problem of the movie was that the plot was simple and boring. While I wouldn't call it boring. The plot is definitely simple. That's why I love it so much. In a time where cinema companies are constantly trying to one-up each other's storyline. It's nice to watch a movie where your full attention isn't required to understand it. I would definitely recommend it to anyone looking for a movie to throw on the TV so your house feels less lonely. Disney's Atlantis. I watched that film so many times it wasn't even funny. The Rescuers. Disney films of the 70s and 80s generally get shafted by critics. But I happen to really like most of them. The Rescuers in particular had great music and story. My mom used to sing me to sleep with Someone's Waiting for You, and I expect that I will do the same to my kids if I ever become a father. Grandma's Boy. 16% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But I don't care. That movie is straight up gold. Dude. Your bed is a car. Yeah. But it's a sweet car. Click. Adam Sandler's movie about a family man with a magic remote that can control time. It's funny and incredibly powerful. Princess Diaries 2. 26% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I actually like it better than the first. Jennifer's Body. It was basically a shitpost that highlighted that Megan Fox could be funny and for some reason. People didn't like it? Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale. I even played it for someone who asked me when it ended. Please don't ever subject me to that again. I find it a lot of fun to watch. Vampires. Werewolves. A new take on the Brides. And the guy who played Dracula was awesome. Cloud Atlas received some really mixed reviews. But it's one of my favorite films. Tom Hanks said, "It's the only movie I've been in that I've seen more than twice." Horrible Bosses. Both of them were hilarious but got bad reviews. Empire Records. Critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes is 29%. Audience is 84%. I adore this movie. It's not great. But it's fun as cute and has an amazing soundtrack. Pacific Rim. People on it for having a shallow story and bad acting, but the story was workable. The acting was nice. And the action itself is stellar. It's a flawed movie but the intent of the film was obviously not to be an Oscar winner. It did exactly what it aimed to do. Giant robots versus giant monsters and goddammit. It did it really well. UHF. Now it's a cult classic. Tron. Legacy. The soundtrack by Daft Punk is incredible. Godzilla King of the Monsters. We came to see big monster fights, we got big monster fights. Batman Forever. I was a kid. Still get shivers when I hear Kiss from a Rose. Hard Candy. With Ellen Page and Patrick Wilson. Kung Pao. Enter the Fist. It is the only cinematic masterpiece with a 13% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. 69% rating from audience. The 13th Warrior has a 33% on RT Hook has a 28% the critics. Both those movies are great. The Dictator. Laughed my off. Frankly. I like SBC much better in straight comedy than his usual mockumentary style. Wild Wild West. The humor is completely idiotic. But how can you not laugh at it? Sister Act 2. It has really poor reviews. Especially in comparison to the first movie, but I love it. The singing and music is really fun and the joyful scene at the end really is joyful. Shark Tale. Yeah. It's stupid. But it's still a fun watch. Spider-Man 3. You'll get your rent when you fix this door. The first two Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies are funny ASF to me. They've got that 2000s family movie vibe and are kinda nostalgic. Nacho Libre. Like I don't understand how you can hate the movie. It's a humble little movie with a heart and soul of its own. The acting and writing is hilarious and doesn't have multi-layering of subplots. It's a simple movie about a journey a priest goes through to make lives better for the orphans. Chew out. Gods of Egypt. I enjoyed it simply as a good popcorn flick. Checked my brain at the door. Visuals were pretty good. Gerard Butler was typical Gerard Butler. Eating up scenes like warm cookies. Attack of the Clones. Say what you will. Kid me got to see a big Jedi battle and Yoda vs. Dooku. And it was glorious. Vanilla Sky. Critics went on to the extent of saying that this started the downfall and lunacy of Tom Cruise. Bedtime Stories 2008. 26% on RT. Yes, it's a dumb Adam Sandler movie, but my god do I love it. Solo. For some reason a lot of critics and people hated the release, but I think it was one of the best Star Wars movies Disney has made. It didn't help that it came out as the same time as Infinity War and DP2, so of course it's not going to rake in the money. It decided the fate of the cancelled Obi-Wan and Boba Fett movies, which infuriates me. Wayne's World. It was just good. Dumb fun. The remake of House on Haunted Hill is incredible. Jeffrey Rush and Famke Janssen just eating all the scenery. It's the best. But it does suck pretty hard. Tron. Legacy gets a bunch of, but I adore that movie so much. It's fun. Visual. And it tries to be deeper than it has to be. Jeff Bridges acts the out of his character. And one can forgive the weird de-aged CGI clue because he's a computer program. Also Valerian. City of a Thousand Planets. Nobody I know has seen it. And apparently people in general didn't like it, but it's another one I adore. The look is great. The story is weird. Its only real drawback is the casting of the main villain. It's kinda like the Matrix problem. I'd you cast Joe Pantoliano in anything, I'm gonna assume he's the villain. In Valerian the villain is obviously the villain because of who they cast. I'm clearly a sucker for sci-fi. Mystery Men. Terrible reviews. Amazing cast. Amazing movie. B-movie. No, I'm serious. I really enjoyed the movie and consider it one of my favorites from when I was a kid. Chronicles of Riddick. It's super campy sci-fi with a ridiculous plot and an out-of-place Judi Dench, but at the same time it's really fun. White Chicks. 15% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I love this movie. I'm not sure what the critics said about them. But I really liked Megamind and Rango. Both are severely underrated. Pixels. It got a 17% rotten on RT, but I don't care if everybody hates it. To me it's a classic and I love that movie. Then again, I've also seen pretty much every Pauly Shore movie and loved them all, so it's not like I have high standards. I also once dragged my then boyfriend, who ended up becoming my husband, to see Pauly Shore when he was on a tour and played quite possibly one of the more interesting venues in my hometown. Freddy Got Fingered. Yes, it's utterly ridiculous and puerile, but I think it's also utter genius. Venom. I think because it was advertised as a edgy antihero story when it was more buddy comedy. Is the reason that it has so low reviews. Aliens vs. Predators. No idea why I like it so much, but it's one of my cult favorites. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Everyone on this movie. I personally find it more enjoyable than the whole of MCU and dare I say even better than the comics on some account. I love 2004 Phantom of the Opera with Gerard Butler. Fight Me. Lion King 1.5. It got trashed. But to me, it was my favorite Lion King movie. Person facepalming female sign. Most Disney sequels. I grew up on them. Cinderella 3. The Lion King 2. The Little Mermaid 2 and 3. Brother Bear 2. Mulan 2. Frozen 2, I just really love them. Of course there are some that are just shitty, cough cough Hunchback. Spring Breakers. It's not the most hated one in particular, but I don't know a single person who likes it. Everyone I've asked hates it. I think the movie is so great to me because of the very unique way it's filmed. There isn't much talking in it. It's a different way of explaining the story and I totally love it. The Road to El Dorado and Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas didn't do well at release. But I absolutely love both of them. Blended. 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I loved it and it was nice comedy. Kung Pao. Enter the Fist. Drop Dead Gorgeous. It was universally panned by critics, but I love that movie. I can recite it start to finish. It is a cinematic gem. Has it aged well? No. Not even a little bit, but I do not care. This movie is your mildly racist. Alcoholic. Twice divorced aunt that chain smokes at the dinner table. But everyone loves her anyway because she's a blast.